Hello, hello, you most beautiful stars. Hello, hello. I am a few minutes late to my 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Edgar Cayce Life Skills Study on Wednesdays. I was seeing if all my little doohickeys work. I do not know if you can hear me because I believe I hooked everything up right, but I'm not positive. So I'm hoping people come. And if it's silent, they will tell me. Um, that would be really funny. That would be really funny if none of you can hear me. I can tell my mic is on, but I have all these new connector things that I'm just hoping that everything's working. Anyways, I'm going to take this all off. So, hello, hello, most beautiful stars. I guess I could just, for a brief moment, see um, if you can hear me by hearing myself. Excellent. I just heard myself. Okay. Excellent. Today, I'm not going to read from his biography, or I'm not going to go through where we are in the biography, and I'm not going to go through another book. Today, I so apologize. I'm fidgeting so much. There's been um, a lot of moving around, and there's going to be even more so. So I'm trying, folks, as we all are, right? Oh, hello, hello, Teresa. Thank you. I was wondering if people could hear me, and we can. So, um, and you changed your tagline or whatever that is, your name. I like it. Um, I do say hello to those who come into the chat, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that today as well. Um, Today I'm not going to go deep into his biography like we normally would and or one of his books and materials. I'm basically going to do a recap of where we are in his biography from beginning to end, where we are now, moving forward. Uh, Teresa just said she was in the studio. She must be creating. I love it. So, thank you for being here, Teresa. And I also want to talk about the Akashic. There's reasons why I want to clarify the Akashic even more so. Every about 4 years or so, about every 4 years, it's very fascinating. That's four. About every 4 years, Edgar and the Akashic kind of rolls through this spirit of consciousness, awareness of it. Just kind of rolls through again. It's Um, people that have never heard of it start hearing about it. People who do know want to investigate more. There about every 4 years, Edgar kind of rolls through the collective. It's been fascinating to watch, and we will be heading into that soon, right? And when I say soon, soon could be in a few months. That people are going to be looking into who's Edgar and what's this Akashic Records. And so I'm using this today as somewhat of a recap. If you're just now getting here to Stars of Morning Light, welcome. If you don't want to go back and re-watch all the videos about Edgar Cayce that we've done so far, that's fine. This is your recap, right? You can jump right into this video and know more about Edgar and the Akashic starting now. So I hope everyone is well. Happy Wednesday. Um, and beautiful stars, I've been thinking, because of so much change in my schedule and things happening in my life, I'm very busy right now. Um, I am thinking my Friday consciousness, it used to be Toth, it's kind of just higher consciousness dialogue now. Uh, Normally it's at 11 a.m. I believe I am going to start just making all of my live videos across the board at 2 p.m. every time. Just 2 p.m. It's going to work better for me. I am normally a morning star, right? Star of the morning. But lately, with more how I've become more busy in my life, my mornings are a little bit more chaotic. So I do believe I'm going to just do all of my videos starting probably this Friday, and I'll put it in a community post about it at 2 p.m. It makes it just easier for me right now, at least. Um, and I am also aware that I have not done a weekly Akashic reading for about 2 weeks. It was because of the hectic schedule of mine, physically, doing a lot and then being exhausted. And my body and life have to be in uh, they need to be, imbalanced and in health to be able to access the records. And we'll talk about it today. I do hope that Monday I will put out a little bit, like a little weekly one on Monday or Sunday, for the coming week. Do know, folks, um, that this Saturday is the autumn equinox. Everybody's already starting to talk about it, right? Everybody's talking about the equinox. This is a very important equinox. And it's the last of the super full moons that's going to back it up. I was questioning it in that pause just then if I would share with you the importance of the autumn equinox to me. I'm a kind of free bird, free thinker, free doer, free celebration maker. um, the autumn equinox to me has always been and will always be, for me, you're not going to hear this really out of anybody else. For me, it is the collective new year. So like my birthday is my personal new year. So when I decided to come in and be like, "Hey, I'm here everybody. Welcome world." And that is so not how I walked into this world. I walked in very angry. But anyways, that's what I did. I chose that day. Everybody's birthday is like their personal new year. It's sad to think that a lot of people don't celebrate birthdays anymore because they don't want to count getting older. It's a great day. It's the day you chose to come and be with us. So thank you. All of the birthdays, and all the lands. Thank you for choosing to be here. Um, but the autumn equinox for me, just me, I think I'm the only one, is my new year for the collective. Many people feel that the spring uh, equinox or whatever, when the spring comes in, the spring one is more the new year, which I understand that. Rebirth, the birthing of, the new beginnings, right? I don't roll that way. I don't roll that way. Um, Probably because of all the esoteric knowledge I have in my brain. Um, I just, I see the autumn as our new year because I see it as, even though we're going into the slow down hibernation crone phase, right? By January and February, that is uh, um, referred to as like the dark moon phase, right? Where it's like, no, this is just darkness. Um, and Yule, I love the fact that Yule is there represented in December, so we can all know and trust that the light will return, that we will be reborn in the spring. So I go along with everything that is said, right? I do. How I view it, though, and I think this does stem from a lot of esoteric stuff in my brain, is that we start in the darkness. We start Well, deciding we want to come first. As Edgar Cayce would say, your purpose is your ticket in, right? We're deciding that we want to come back. And then we live and grow in our mother's womb in the darkness as we're growing and learning and shaping and forming, right? Taking in our senses through her in the darkness. And then, yes, we are born into the light. You can also see it as all creation stems from the void. When then source, creator, God, Father, however you want to refer to it, and depending on the culture and the reading that you do, it could be, and first there was darkness, and then there was the word, right? Or it could be the void, and then first was thought, or light penetrated through the void. So for me, the representation of going into hibernation, going back into that crone, darkness, resting, growing, deciding, choosing, all of that, right? Because we actually make a lot of choices while we grow inside of our mother's womb. All of that to me is actually the representation of a new year. That we start that way, slowly, steady in the darkness, and then we are born, and then the light comes, and then there's the word. So for me personally, the autumn equinox is that. It's like my new year. It's such a blessed time. And I love going into then the darkness. I mean, that's also why if you work with the moon, and most people here understand when I say this, that's why it's represented as the heart. This is the representation right now. The autumn equinox really is the representation of your harvest. Good, bad, or indifferent. What did you pull in this year, right? What did you not? It's the representation of that. I don't know why Thanksgiving is so far down the way for us here in the States, right? This is the representation. Your harvest has been complete for all of the seasons that we have previously lived. So we honor and give thanks for whatever that harvest might have been, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. It doesn't, we give thanks. And then it marks, for me, like I said, a turning in back into the darkness where I gain even more wisdom. I make even more choices. I contemplate my purpose, right? And that all is in representation as to what we do and how we learn and grow and live and develop prior to us even getting here. So for me, I think I've said that enough, haven't I? For me. Because everybody's going to say everything, everybody's got different opinions. But I think it is because of my knowledge and knowing how the seasons work and what humans really go through during the dark phase of things. I mean, humans, we all, we all, I learned this at a very young age. We all mentally, emotionally, and physically actually grow more in the wintertime. I know. I'm sure everybody went, "What? That sounds like a contradiction. I don't get up off the couch really." And I am of course talking about the northern hemisphere right now. We actually do because we give our bodies the rest that they deserve so we can actually feel too what's going on with our bodies. What's going on? What do I need to pay attention to? What do I need to heal more, right? We mentally grow so much more in the wintertime because we're more, especially where it snows, right? We are forced to spend more quality time with ourselves. We emotionally, because the darkness does come emotionally, and this is why people have so much, they have such difficulty in the darkness. I used to. In the darkness, in the silence, in the quiet, in the time alone, after all the festivities are done and over, then we're with ourselves. And a lot comes up and a lot comes out. Usually, January is very difficult, right? That's why I always thought as a kid, hell, that's why they put January as the first of the year, because we all get hit with all this all this emotional stuff. And so they created this concept of New Year's resolutions. And it's interesting what society does. So when we think about it, and you don't have to go with how I think. You can do whatever you want. You can see March and April whenever is the collective new year. You can see January as your new year. I don't care how you do that. I'm saying for me though, the autumn equinox has always been that. It has always been that. It's so lovely to know that my cycles are complete and I'm unwinding down into gratitude, awareness, wisdom, and the grace of the light returning. That to me has always been hands down beautiful. And this equinox is very special. This equinox, it's up to you to allow the energies that will be presented this equinox and post equinox um, to help you restructure, rebalance your inner and outer life with amazing harmony to it. Those energies will be available. I suggest taking those energies and working with them and not against them. Because when going forward, if you're working against them, it's not going to be nice. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be pretty. But if you work with them, you can actually smooth sail through a lot of what may or may not happen, right? All the infinite possibilities of the collective. But I will tell you, you definitely would be able to have much smoother sails through it all. So this one's big. It's beautiful. Restoring balance and harmony. That's beautiful. I mean, oh my God. Absolutely wonderful. Let's pick a card, folks. And Lori, I saw you came into the chat. Thank you, my dear. Whoa, 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 whoa. I wonder if that's Lori that's doing all that. I'm gonna shuffle again. Once I said your name, Lori, cards started flying, lady. Oh my goodness. I do want to say as I shuffle here, um, I appreciate all of my subscribers here at Stars of Morning Light. I think you are all amazing and beautiful and wonderful. And even if you just catch a video on the fly, that's cool with me. It's what you needed at the time, right? Um, to my patrons, you know how much I adore you. For those who don't know, Stars of the Morning Light on Patreon.com. I think I'm actually, I think I'm kind of changing Patreon, to tell you the truth. Look at me take all the credit. No, it goes to the patrons. That they get the credit. I think I'm changing the scope of how Patreon does. I really do. Or the patrons are. Stars of the Morning Light on Patreon. It is a community. It is a community of people that care about one another, communicate with one another. Now they took the initiative and we're all rolling with it to meditate together every Sunday morning. I teach there privately twice a month. I've had a few people say this in the past of like, nobody does that much work on Patreon. No one does that for people on, like, there might be a couple of private times with the host, or you could get readings from them or stuff like that. I work really hard for the patrons and I'm communicating with the patrons, and I love watching them grow and come together and be together. And I think through that, the scope of Patreon and the expectations, the intentions might be changing there a bit. At least, well, we'll wait and see. But I will tell people that I think when I say come join us on Patreon, they think it's just the run of the mill, nothing really happens there, right? No, there's stuff happening there. Private lessons that I do not do here. They are learning so much. They're manifesting, they're developing skills, their gifts are showing up. I mean, there's so much happening. Um, on top of a community that cares about one another. So it's definitely, I think, changing the scope um of how people can use Patreon for a greater good, right? That's what I feel like. That's what I feel. So either way, here at Stars of Morning Light, either on YouTube or on Patreon, it's a lovely community, and we all have a good time together, and we all share and grow and learn and exchange and expand with one another, and it's lovely. It's absolutely lovely. I'm going to pick a card now because I stopped jumping for everyone who may see this message. Kind of making me dig. Oh, interesting. We don't get this card too often. I do believe this is what the deck wants me to pull up. It might not come into um, the message today, but maybe it will. So, it is actually number 21, the Divine Feminine. This is from the Sacred Geometry deck. The frequency of Divine Feminine supports our receptive, nurturing, and soft side, allowing it to express itself openly and helping us to connect to our intrinsic understanding of our connection to all of creation. Yeah, this is probably going to come up. Look at that. Oh my goodness. Actually, folks, when I go to talk again about the Akashic today, these colors on here, oh, and you can see that. You see like the waters behind it? You see the waters? That's the waters of creation. That is. Oh my goodness, like the Virgin Spirit, the waters of creation. Oh my goodness, the living water. Oh my goodness. These colors, though, that are here on this card, they, when I go to talk about the Akashic again, I'm going to address these colors, okay? That's lovely. So lovely. Divine Feminine, which we all have within, right? It is actually the wisdom and the nurturing and the receptive, right? The soft side of all of us humans. So, I believe Shelley just came in. Nice to see you, Miss Shelley, Seeker of Truth. So, I'm going to talk briefly. This episode is a recap of Edgar Cayce's biography. And I'm just going to do it off the top of my brain, folks. I didn't jot anything down. I'm just going to do a quick recap of Edgar's biography to where we are now. Because remember, he just met his wife, right? They just got engaged. So I kind of want to bring people back through the recap. And then I'm going to talk about the Akashic for a moment. So, and if anybody is local and hears this message, when I say local, I mean northern Georgia or southeast Tennessee, Tennessee Valley area. Um, I will actually be doing Akashic Readings at a small psychic event at Blue Sun Fusion Studio in Dalton, Georgia. Dalton, Georgia is about 20-30 minutes south of Chattanooga, Tennessee, about an hour and a half from Atlanta, right? So I will be doing that Saturday, September 30th. You can come on through and meet me. Edgar was born, right? He was the second child of, I think, like 7 kids. And this is going to just be off the top of my head because it's just a quick snap or, summary. Um, he was, I think, the second born of 7 kids. And his his dad, Leslie, as I've said before, it's been pretty much known that his dad was not his biological dad. He was actually more like his uncle because Edgar Sr., Edgar, who is the oldest brother of his father's line, because I don't know, there was a bunch of kids in that line too, right? It was like Edgar, Leslie, a few girls, and then another uncle. So Edgar was the firstborn of his parents' line. Leslie raised Edgar Jr., quote unquote, Edgar Cayce, as if he was his own, but it kind of did come out eventually. Or it was just one of those family secrets. You know what I mean? Those family secrets. But people in today's world know that actually Edgar Cayce, as a baby, his uncle was his biological daddy, and the man who raised him was his uncle. It happens. And it's kind of all the same, DNA in a lot of ways, anyways, right? It's all the same mix. It's because Leslie, his dad, was just a douchebag, and that's the best way I can put it. He really was. He was a drunk, he was a womanizer, he hit the kids, hit his wife. He, for some reason, couldn't be the farmer like everyone else for generations were in his family. They were tobacco farmers, because every time he would, I don't know, even be standing around long enough, or definitely put his hands in the ground, snakes would crawl over him, which I don't even know what that represents. Snakes are not necessarily bad, but if they're doing something like that, there's something weird happening, right? So Leslie, his the dad who raised him, was just not a good guy. He wasn't. He ran around on his wife. He was horrible at kids. He was a horrible businessman, no matter what business he was attempting. He was also kind of one of those shysters, con men that were always looking for the next big adventure, or big money marketing thing. He's just that guy. So at some point, yeah, his mother Carrie, she hung out more with the older brother because he kept stopping by to make sure her and the kids were okay. So things happen. Things happen. It's fine. So Edgar, as growing up, though, he had his grandfather Tom. His grandfather Tom was a very gifted man, very gifted. I think everybody in the family had gifts, but which usually happens. But some are very dormant, I should say. I'm sorry, for certain members of the family, opposed to like other ones that it's like, whoa, that one's got something going on there. I think it runs through the family lines. It really does. Um, and it could be from the mother or father line. It just runs through, and some live with it and some don't. Like any other thing that's in the blood. His grandfather, though, Tom, he was a kind, he was a good man, he was a great farmer. He helped out the other farmers in their town, a Hopkinsville area, I should say, and Beverly. There were two major families, farming families, the the Cayces and the Majors, who just kind of kept marrying back and forth with each other to keep the land. We all know this. We're all educated people. Hopkinsville was the bigger city area. So think of like Beverly, and this is rural Kentucky, and then there's a county seat that's Hopkinsville. Um, his grandfather was a good man, Tom, and he would help people. He was extremely gifted. He definitely could find water. I mean, he found water for all the farmers. Um, he could talk to things. He just knew things. There were times that people thought he could levitate things. He was a good man. He was gifted and didn't. He was the type that I'm going to use this for a good purpose when it's needed, but I'm not going to be showy about it. I don't think I'm anything unique opposed to anyone else. And that's the right frame of mind to have. So Edgar was able to grow up with his grandmother Elizabeth and his grandfather Tom telling him stuff like that. Like even though you're gifted, you're no different than anyone else. You are gifted and never use it for showmanship, right? For enterprise that way. Don't go to a circus, right? That kind of thing. It's not meant for that. It's meant to, you know, love on people. So his grandfather, well, actually, I'll back it up. Cayce had multiple kind of experiences growing up. He would talk to the little ones, right? The little ones. Um, that's what he referred to a lot of, think of elementals, right? He would also talk to disembodied spirits. Um, he would give messages here and there. Just things would happen. Um, Especially when he was alone in the garden. But he also had some accidents. He had a few accidents. Um, at one point, he fell off of a fence, and probably because Leslie never picked up the debris from building the fence, it's like Edgar fell and a nail went straight through his head. He also got hit severely from a baseball bat. He also had a near death experience with drowning. He had some experiences um, with near death and damage to the brain that have always come into question as to did he receive his gifts that way, or was that what kind of unlocked what was dormant, right? We talked greatly in some of these videos about the not just the pineal gland, but also the pituitary gland, and how that, in my humble opinion, has to be activated for the two to kind of work together. And it's because of the concept of perception and how much perception creates reality. Um, so the two kind of need to be working in accordance with each other. Because here's the thing, and I guess I'll just talk about it briefly. Many are talking about how the pineal is your third eye or opens your third eye. Like once your third eye is open, your pineal gland is activated, you can see all this stuff, da 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 da. Well, if you don't have your pituitary gland working in relationship with an active pineal gland, opening that third eye is going to way mess you up, completely mess you up. And that's why we hear stories of that happening, right? I remember, this is wild. I remember it went on in the 90s, and then I heard again around like the 2010s, 11s, 12 time period. of people thinking and choosing that what's really awesome is to try to go to the astral, which is not where you ever want to go, right? And try to open your third eye in the astral. Do you know that was a thing that went on in the 90s and again around the 210s time that I was like, are these people insane? And yeah, they end up damaging themselves, those who are able to do it. They really are. And so I'm trying to say the pituitary gland also has to work with the pineal gland because it's based on perception and how you take in information, how you take in what you see and hear, right? So I'm just going to put that aside for right now. So he had a lot of accents. So they didn't know exactly which came first, the chicken or the egg. Or was it all fried up at the same time? You know, we don't know. He was also a different sort of child. He was very, I don't want to use the word precocious because precocious also kind of has this airs to it that, they're know-it-alls. He wasn't that. He was just pardon me. It becomes somewhat stale in this room when there's no air coming through. Um, he was very mature for his age, and he just was operating at a different consciousness level, really. He had compassion for everyone and everything. I mean, were there times when he was older that he got into it with his dad? Yeah. And we talked about it in one of the last videos. But for the most part, he was able to hold full conversations with grown adults at a very young age. He was concerned with what was going on with adults. If he could tell they were having a bad day, he would ask and try to have them express themselves to him. He was that kind of child. He was just operating differently, which also made him a freak at school, as we learned here in many of the videos. He was the tallest of all the kids, always in the class. He was always the tallest. He was the freak that clearly is seeing something or speaking to someone that's not there. He also had a horrible time with his academics, with learning, with reading, writing, and arithmetic. He was not learning. I mean, it just wasn't happening. Um, and that is how we actually stumble on to the Akashic with him. As a child, he was like 12 years old. And he was at the table with his dad, and they were trying to do reading lessons again, studying for a test. Like, his parents finally got hip to the fact, like, this kid can't read. This kid is not, I mean, he's not going to be able to do much of any of it. Which I know a lot of people in today's world would go, whoa, he made it to 12 and their parents didn't really know? Different time. The whole reason as to why we're bringing into the Edgar Cayce stuff into today is that was 100 years ago. We're looking at all the spiritualism stuff and all of the turn of that century and what happened with it. This was a farming community. They also had other kids. Also, the teachers were doing as much as the teachers needed to do. It wasn't, they were, honestly, they were getting probably better educated than we are now in today's world, but it wasn't addressed as much, emphasized the whole, I mean, now we have no child left behind. That wasn't really a thing, right? So they did come to fully realize, okay, he is grown enough now that he should be at least a certain level, and he is not at any kind of level like that. So one night his father got real frustrated with him and, hit him and was like, yeah, he slapped him out of the chair basically because Cayce could not answer the questions for the test and could not read, and he was frustrated. And he said, you know what? I need a break. You go lay down. I'm going to step outside, that kind of thing. Like, you need to get away from me. Um, so Cayce went and laid down, and because that's what his father told him to do. And he just kind of put a wish out there. I mean, he brought the books with him because he was thinking, well, if I don't sleep, I'll continue to study because I don't want to keep getting hit, right? But he did fall asleep, and before he fell asleep, he just kind of put a wish out there that he wishes he could know the information, learn how, be able to read. And he went to sleep, and when he woke up, his dad started quizzing him again, and Cayce, though, started rambling off the answers. To the point that his dad was like, "What'd you do? Show me your hands. I know you put those, you brought the books into the room with you. Show me your hands. How are you cheating? How are you cheating?" So then his dad started flipping through other sections of that book and different books as to, you know, Cayce might not even had to have learned it yet, and Cayce just started rambling off the answers, right? His father was like, "Read this page." Cayce was able to read it. He didn't know at the time, of course. He was a 12-year-old. He did not know at the time that he accessed the records. And the records heard his wish and said, "Here you go. It's due time." Right? We're going to open you up in so many ways. And so this needs to be here. From that day forward, they got him a private tutor, and he surpassed his peers. He didn't just get to the level that he's supposed to be at. He jumped like 2 or 3 grades. But it was decided in the family by the time he was 16 and he was graduating from what would be high school for us to not go on into higher education, because it was becoming much more apparent of how much of a freak he can kind of be, right? He might be those kind that says something to you that they should not even know about. Um, Having conversations with beings that are not there. He struggled because the girl he first crushed on only talked to him because she wanted to know what made him tick. Um, it was very difficult. The only thing that really got Cayce through was his love for reading the Bible. That was the only thing that really got him through. His grandfather had died. Tom had died before him at the age of 6. But he continued to talk to grandfather in his disembodied way. But then his grandmother died again when Cayce was struggling to find out who he was. I mean, he graduated high school and then spent like a year being a real man, quote unquote, his words of what he thought a real man was, which was going out drinking, harassing women, getting into some fights, that guy, a real man. Um, he only did that for about a year because it was not in his character and he saw too much stuff and he also got shot in the shoulder. It's not the best, right? Um, basically he realized he was not his father. That's what he realized. And his grandmother Elizabeth was dying at the time, so he went back and lived with his grandmother, and his grandmother was a lovely woman who really emphasized to him that he needed to accept himself. And I'm going to tell everyone now, if you listen to this long enough and you're new here, hit the like button, subscribe, ring my bell. And if you want more detail, go back to all the other videos. I mean, we go into this into grave detail. So after his grandmother died, he was working on one of his uncle's farms. And one day, a voice said, "You need to go to Hopkinsville. You just got to go." And he followed the voice. He accepted and went, which is the hardest part, I think, for all of us humans, the follow through. But he submitted his will over to that voice that said go to Hopkinsville. He left during that day. And in Hopkinsville, he started working at a bookstore, and everybody loved his what is referred to as recall, retelling of the stories. Everybody loved it of all the books in there, and it was Cayce's first time being in a big city like that. A wonderful big city where the women dressed beautifully, the men dressed handsomely. There were so many shops and things happening, and dogs running around, and horses, and it was a happening city at the turn of the century. So think of turn of the century clothing, think of turn of the century atmosphere, right? It was beautiful. It was great. He loved it. Um, he worked in the bookstore, and during that time as well, he got very active in different church communities. He started running a few Sunday schools. Um, he, people, his ability to break down the Bible as to how he read it fascinated people. It was as if they, you know this Bible inside and out. And you also understand what all these passages mean. They were fascinated by that. I will tell you now, Cayce, his entire life since he started reading the Bible, he, every January 1st, the collective new year, as the calendar would say, um, he would start on page 1 of the Bible and read the Bible every year, every day, every year, like a page a day pretty much, um, for the rest of his life. For his entire life. That's what he did until his dying day. He loved it. He loved the stories. He loved the content. He loved everything. It wasn't until later in life when he was doing readings that stuff like reincarnation comes up, stuff about aliens comes up, stuff about Atlantis comes up, that as we continue further into his biography, he struggled with a bit. So he's in Hopkinsville, and he's working, doing Sunday schools for people, very involved in the community, church community. Um, and he is invited to a party at Hill House, or the House on the Hill. It's called, actually, The Hill. That's it, The Hill. Very swank, big home. The first time he was invited, he declined. And then it became kind of known that it was one of the granddaughters that lives at the Hill that was inviting Cayce because she really wanted to meet him. And so he went, and he had never seen a place like that. You know, he had been in big homes. Big homes are big homes, right? Think plantations are big homes. That doesn't mean they're decorated in the same way, right? This has oriental rugs and pottery and beautiful, chandeliers, stuff like that he hadn't really seen before inside of a home. And the parties were a bit difficult, but he ended up meeting Margaret, and she was the one who invited him, and they started talking, and he started hanging out with the family more, and that's kind of where we were last biography episode, as to his relationship within the family, his relationship with her, proposing to her, losing his job right after he proposed, so the marriage was a little bit postponed, feeling very awkward within that family unit because even though they accepted him, he was kind of a sideshow, right? And also feeling awkward because he most likely was never going to make the money that she was used to, right? All of that social anxiety, feeling awkward, as he always did as a child, started to accept himself And now he's kind of back into this awkward stage or feeling that way of, will I be accepted or not accepted, because now he's matured into a man and wants to get married. So that is where we left it. That is the synopsis, recap, summary, right, of the bio to where we are now. And I did want to speak a bit about just the actual Akashic, um, because I'm learning as I'm starting to see that the spirit of Edgar is going to start rolling through again. Like I said at the very beginning of this episode, about every 4 years, Edgar Cayce, and the Akashic Records, and who is that and what is that, and kind of is on the lips and minds of many a people about every 4 years. And we're going to head into that here soon. Um, so thinking about that, right? I want to talk about the Akashic again, and I will probably continuously maybe bring up how the Akashic really works, and how um, things you can how you can know a reader from the next, because it's also becoming apparent to me that I'm understanding that um, a lot of people are getting messages, possibly what they refer to as channeled messages, or how they're seeing things. Many people are actually getting it from the astral. Um, I, the astral is a bad place. It is like the hell world in a way, but it can trick you and mask it, and it's a tricky place. Uh, Thank you to David Icke for bringing that back into people's awareness. That in the ancient times they knew that to stay out of the astral, but um, the thing is I don't hold any of these people in judgment, because they don't know what they don't know, right? They think they're receiving messages from the Akashic, or even their guides, or they're getting these visions from something like the ethereal, or the Akashic, that kind of thing. When really, and oftentimes it's, especially now, it's the astral. What I was about to say there is that even for myself, who has not dealt with anything astral in years, the astral even wanted to start trying to mess with me again back in March when I lost my voice. Because I'm realizing now I was actually probably very sick for for a few months there, and I was just holding off being sick. I think I was sick December, January, and February. Because I remember doing a reading event in January, and something was just not right. Something just did. I did not feel right. I did not look right. It didn't. Doing the readings. Not saying I was getting stuff from the astral. It was just I wasn't able to be my full um, experience for myself or others. And I think it was because I was sick for quite a long time. Um, so since then, the astral has actually been trying to mess with me. Like they caught me at my worst, and they think they're going to trick me again, and they've been trying to pop through and trick me. Um, which is not going to work. They need to just, but it also is a representation to me that the astral is much more active right now. It has been, at least for the past 3 months, definitely for people. And it's going to probably become even more active. Um, it's just it's trying to, it's doing its job. It's doing its job just like 3D. Like if you want to think of the astral plane in its purest form, it is the chaos of 3D, just in a different dimensional aspect, just in a different dimensional plane. It is it looks different and feels different, but it really is that. It really is that, and all it's trying to do is trap everybody in there, um, which I know many unfortunate souls that are actually trapped there and or think they're getting a, the appropriate information, but it's coming from the astral. So be a bit weary about that. Also moving forward, be a bit weary about the spiritual leaders, the ones with the messages that will be starting to present themselves even more. I will tell you things that were being that were going to start rolling out have been delayed. So that is all still on the table, though. So the Akashic. Edgar Cayce is the one that kind of coined that phrase. The Akashic has always been. He's not the one that he didn't invent it. He didn't anything like that. But he kind of brought that the term back and coined the phrase Akashic Records. And I think people get. Oh, was I buffering? Okay. Thank you for telling me when I'm buffering. Um, I'll talk slower. It's when I do any kind of hand gestures, I believe. I buffer. So, I'm starting to realize people have a very interesting. Maybe it's because they just don't. I don't know. I hear people say very interesting stuff about the Akashic, right? Um, and I think it's because when you hear the word Akashic Records, people recognize it as the place or the frequency, how the let's just say place, the place that holds all information that has ever been and ever will be. That's how they describe it. Well, of course, that description would swirl around in people's minds and they would come up with all these concepts as to what the Akashic is. Um, is it true? Yes, it holds that information, but how it operates has nothing to do with the things that I hear come out of other people's mouths. Um, back when, because I started studying the how to access the Akashic. Um, I want to say like 2000. Yeah, because I got heavy into studying Edgar Cayce in 2013. I think I started looking at the Akashic in like 2015, 16. Okay, maybe early 2016. I started actually. So it might have been late 2016 that I actually was like, I can do this, and I started practicing, right, and started working with other materials and whatnot, and started working with the Akashic. Well, so from 2000, let's say 2016, up until this past March, so 2023, it operated the same way for me, right? It did appear to, it was like a library and everybody had a book and that sort of thing, right? There were things that they showed me, um, and that I knew and that I felt and I experienced in there. But I would say about 4 months leading into this past March when I lost my voice. Every time I would access the Akashic, go there as I would say, quote unquote, because it felt like I was actually going to a library. I was actually retrieving the person's story. As I was going there, there would be this, as I hold up the Divine Feminine card again, not that design, but it would have all of those colors kind of in a starry, what looked like a Milky Way, and a kind of was present outside of where I was headed. And so for months I was like, what is that? What is that? And all that, and those that I communicate in the Akashic would say, oh, that's not for you yet. That's not for you yet, right? All these colors are presented though in it. And you see these waters back here on this card, folks. These waters, okay? Those, I want to make sure I still have power here. Those, um, that's a whole lot of what it looks like, or what I kind of stand inside of, as of since March. So March, when I lost my voice, I learned a lot, and I have documented it, but I haven't shared it yet. Um, I don't go to a library. I don't retrieve anybody's stories. That was for me at the time that I needed it. I go to what kind of looks like a swirly Milky Way, pink waters, starry area. It's all frequency, by the way. It's all frequency. I no longer retrieve anybody's books. I retrieve their frequency. Mm-hmm. And that's what Edgar was doing. That's why I always, when I was in the library per se, I'd be like, so why is Edgar read and receive differently than I? And they say, because you're not there yet. Well, somehow in March I ended up, or I did enough internal work and external work to be there. Edgar, blessed being, and there's been others, he was just born to do it, right? He had already, he was already at a certain frequency himself, right? Because I have to match my frequency to it. He came as that frequency. So within the Akashic, though, let's say I'm there and I'm doing a reading for you, whomever, what have you. This is where people, I think, jumble things up. Can you get all of the answers and all of the blueprints and all of the information about all things? Yes. When you finally get there, that is not what your concern is. That is not what their concern is. Those that help you, um, that speak with you and to help you with messages. They do not care about the same stuff that we care about. So, can you? Yes. Can it be simple stuff like, hey, what car part do I need, right? To fix my car? Yeah, they'll tell you, right? But is never in a self-serving way that is not beneficial for the all. So, how do I give this example? I hear people say, "Well, man, I'll just, if we can just go to the Akashic and learn how to build, this and that, like Tesla." Everybody keeps referring it to as like Tesla. That was Tesla's job here on the planet. That's what they gave him because that's what Tesla was made for. That's who he was. Do you think that if they gave me that information, which I could ask for, I would do anything with that? No. No, it's not my job. That's not my job. They're more concerned about, are we living our best possible outcomes, our best possible opportunities? Are we living our best possible lives individually? So, can I receive all the information that Tesla did? Yeah. When I'm there, do I even think about it? No, because it has nothing to do with my purpose. Same with when I do readings for others. When they ask questions, the Akashic might turn to me and say, ask him this. Like, why are you thinking about that? Why are you focusing on that? What, see, maybe you could, if you saw it this way. I'm actually posing more questions to people than I need to. Because it is not designed to just give everybody the winning numbers. is designed for us individuals to live our best possible lives. So, yes, can you access all the information that had ever been? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Which gets tricky in itself because then you have to go into cycles. Like everybody asks me about Atlantis, right? Which one? That's why I always have to say, which one? Which one from which cycle? Right? The one that we seem to all be fixed on in this cycle? Okay. Why is it that we just keep finding so many different possible Atlantises? Because the Earth has been the Earth no matter when. The Earth has been the Earth has been the Earth. Yeah. So, can you get that kind of information? Yeah. Yeah, you can. Yeah. And sometimes I do if it pertains to helping others. The information for the future, for you and I, for all of us to live our best possible lives. It's not so easy. Not so easy. There's so much complexities to the human life, also attached to the collective, that it's not so easy. Nothing's set in stone. And nothing could be set in stone if all is energy. Energy is moving and flowing like the waters of creation, as I hold this card back up, right? Like the waters of creation, you are creating all the time. This is just a matrix that you are designing all the time, right? So to go into the future, and this goes for anybody that accesses the Akashic, even Edgar. I'm bringing this up because we're going to go into it eventually because now we're at that, he's at the age that he's getting married and his life is going to start shifting. So I'm approaching this now so people can understand later. We are creating all the time. You're creating, I'm creating, we're creating all the time. So future is based on what you do. What you do as an individual and what we do as a collective. So like I just said a couple of minutes ago, there's been some stuff that has been postponed. Because the collective, which I like hearing this, is doing a bit better. Yeah, good job, collective. They're doing a bit better. They're not as angry and fearful as they were before. It really is based on fear. It really is. Fear is what what blocks our creation because it uses doubt to tell us that we can't create. We can't be happy, right? So good job, collective. I'm very happy for at least postponing it by like 4 weeks or so, or until it shifts again, things like that. Um, it goes for all of the future matters. Nothing is in stone. I know many people think that there's things that are inevitable. Not necessarily so. Not necessarily so. So, as it goes with the Akashic, when I do a reading or I'm there for myself, which I don't go for myself that much either. I think that's what people like with Cayce. Cayce only did one reading for himself in his entire life. That was it. And it was kind of because people wanted him to. Can you believe that? Yeah. He did one reading for himself. I don't go to the Akashic often for me, but it's because I understand human free will and I understand we're creating all the time. I do occasionally when something happens and it's like, whoa, what do I do with that? The unexpected, right? But I go there often for other people. And so whenever they pose a question that is of the future, all I can deliver is the best possible scenario or what is being shown predictively, prophesized as far as the frequency they are in at that moment. So I can give them 2 or 3 alternatives. Okay, so if you just keep going the projection that you're going, this is going to be the outcome. If you change this up, this would be your outcome. And if you do absolutely nothing and change direction, will you ever even get back to it? This is the outcome. Right? Because we do that often too, humans. We'll get started on something and then we lack the follow through. Well, then that changes the story. That changes your frequency. It changes the outcomes. So it sounds often like that's a cop out. It's not. It's because everything is energy. And so when Edgar even talks about it, I think everybody, even back then, was like, huh, you know, isn't the future the future? Same as the past is the past. It's all written in this apparently Akashic. The Akashic is frequencies. The Akashic is the 0 point of creation. The Akashic is their awareness of all that has and could ever be. The Akashic is the infinite potentiality of here on earth, right? And and the cosmos, really. So infinite potentiality, waters of creation, 0 point of creation, however you want to see it. There's no way that it would be able to identify this is the future point blank when the future is in our hands. It's not up to them. They're not creating. They're not the ones creating. We are. We are the as above, so below, as below, so above. We are the middle ground for all things in the cosmos. And that is why it is as within, so without. And that out is our own environments, our local areas, the whole planet, and the cosmos. So, it's all based on us. It's so easy. So, yeah, can you go to the Akashic and say, hey, give me all of the blueprints of Tesla? You could, and they, I can guarantee you, they'd be like, "Why? That's not your job," um, because they really are concerned more so with we're living our purpose, we're living why we came. But let's say they do. Let's say you argue and you say, "No, no, no, I want them. I have the right to have them," which you do. You have the right to have them. The blueprints of Tesla. Um, you are allowed to have them. Um, but then what? Sincerely. But then what? How many humans can actually do a raise of hands that if you had that information, you would go out and start building it all? You have the resources, the time, the effort, and the gumption and follow through to build it all. Probably not, because that was for him. That was Tesla's. That was for him. Same as Edgar, Edgar Cayce, for the most part, when in the beginning of his reading career, it was all health. It was all information about curing what ails you. It wasn't until much later that it turned into other aspects. That was his focus. That was what he was there to do. That was the way he could help heal. So that's how it happened for him. We all have a reason, we all have a purpose. And I'm going to remind everybody your purpose here is to love yourself, love others, and love the planet. That's it. That's your ticket in. What that looks like for you is different for everybody. So, like for me, if I have to go to the Akashic for myself, What do you think they're talking to me about? Blueprints for how to build a car? Or blueprints as to, no. What the winning lottery numbers are? No. They're talking to me about what I need for me to succeed in helping everyone else succeed. Because that is why I'm here. I am here to help communities, unity, those who want to experience community and unity and the power within that. That's the only reason I'm here. That's the only reason. That is how I love myself and love others and the planet. That's it. That's it. That's my reason. Now, how do I achieve that? Looks different. It can look different from month to month, circumstance, what have you. But that's my only objective for this life around. So why would they talk to me about all that other stuff? I'm not even curious about it when I go. See, that's the thing that people don't maybe not understand. To even access the true Akashic, not the astral, to even access the true Akashic, you are not able to enter in there with any of the human stuff attached. The fears, the pains, the hurts, the resentments, the curiosities, the desires. They're not attached there. You don't have them attached to as you are there. So even when you're there, you're not really curious about anything like that. If it's not pertaining to yourself and how you are here to help the world. Same with Cayce. It wasn't until other people, started asking questions while he was in his meditative sleep state about things like reincarnation, about this, about that. It wasn't until other people started asking the questions that those were even a part of his readings, because he wasn't concerned with any of that. So I'm just emphasizing again, please pay attention to those that you might hear out there as we go further with Edgar's bio, and we're going to end up starting another book here in a couple of weeks. One of his books about his readings. When we start doing all of that, keep in mind the Akashic is probably not what you're thinking it is. It's not. It is a place that holds the frequencies that have always been and those that are the potentialities out of the frequencies that have always been and that are current. That's why we have sayings like, well, history just repeats itself. Yeah, because we don't change the cause. We don't change the effect. So it will, because we're just creating out of the same frequencies of the past. Instead of acknowledging in the current frequencies that you, I, all of us, as humans, have free will to say, nope, I'm going to be kinder today. I'm going to be better today. I'm going to do this. I'm going to start changing the cause and effect that is a part of creation. I'm going to create a new cause. I'm just going to create a new cause because I know it's going to have effects, and those effects out of a good cause can create a whole new frequency of potentiality, right? So the more that we acknowledge that we are creating all the time, the more we can start seeing things differently and experiencing things differently, which is how the Akashic, nothing is set in stone. So I know that was kind of a odd Edgar Cayce, but I was just trying to bring people into more of the concept as to how the Akashic works. Because as we go further, now that he's an adult and is in the biography that we're doing, what he says and what he experiences is going to make more sense now. So I wanted to put that out there. And also thank you to the collective. The collective's actually doing better than they think they are. The collective is doing better. And so I give praise and thanks to the collective that we're all a part of, right? Um, for doing better. That's lovely. Remember, we can choose. It's all a choice. Either we choose to be in love or we choose to be in fear. And we can make a new choice at any time during the day. Anytime, right? So, thank you for all being here. Um, Seeker, Lori, I do believe I saw Beloved come in. Thank you, Beloved. Teresa was here. Thank you all. Consider joining us with the Patreon group because that is the unity in the community that are creating new causes. It's lovely. Um, if you did donate to the Maui fundraiser on the community page, please put your vote in as to where the money should be sent. And I hope everybody has a great week. I also want to state here now, and I'll put it on the community page. I believe going forward for the next couple of months, I'm going to put all of my live shows at 2 p.m. All of it, even my Friday one, is going to have to be at 2 p.m. just because of my schedule in life. So, namaste to you all, and have a great day. Have a great week. I will see you Friday then at 2 p.m. Bye, guys.